Hi, Taurus. All right, welcome to the new year, Gregorian year. Welcome to January. Welcome to now. I hope you're happy. And if you're not, well, let's figure out how to work through that. Okay, Taurus. So I guess we'll jump right in here. Okay. So before there was science, quote unquote, before there was science, people figured out how to do things by sight, by smell, by touch, by feeling, right? By the way it sounded. So, and you rule all these things, which is very interesting. Maybe some of you are good at making, I heard some of you, I heard the tool maker. Cool. Okay. Hope that's not too smoky. I just burnt some frankincense. Making tools. Okay. Because tools are used for many things, right? And I see that you have many, many, many tools, Taurus. Many tools in your toolbox, right? Some of them are tangible, some of them are ethereal, some of them are elemental. Wearing the color red, again, still important. I actually saw what I was wearing and I was like, I should take the advice and wear red too, because we all have Taurus, but it's chilly today, and so I guess there's also something about taking what people say with a grain of salt, not ultimately dismissing something because it's different than whatever you're doing, but to really, I guess it is important to take what people say with a grain of salt. Salt is good. That saying, I like it, because we're talking about protecting yourself, right? Salt is for protection. You are the salt. You are the salt of the earth, right? Now, see, most of you are still waiting on something. Most of you are still waiting on something. Something to finalize, or something to be known. I see you gaining a lot of I guess you're starting to share. There's an advice here to start sharing. Well, sharing yourself and being proud of what you've created, right? And it doesn't matter if everyone understands it or not, right? Aquarius has something to do with this also. I see Aquarius, Gemini, Cancer. Those three are big. After that will come the Sun. Let me see. Your younger self really wants you to appreciate who you are now. Okay? Like, remember that reading where we talked about all the things you've created, right? All the things that you've touched, all the people you've talked to, all the things that you've smelled, all the food that you've eaten, all the art that you've created, all the laughter or the whatever, like all of it, all the things you've done and participated within smell, touch, feel, scent, hearing, whatever, sound. All of this makes such a difference in your inner self, your younger self. Your ancestors want you to remember that. Okay. I also see that whatever your talents are, whatever your some of the tools in your toolbox are directly related to your ancestors, and it's important for you to, well, appreciate that and to know that, respect that. And then I heard admire that in them, because not that you couldn't have maybe had it without them, but that's a part of it, and that's really cool, right? That's a really fascinating thing. I really see your present self as, it's important for you to be clear. It's important for you to, okay, what are you, you actually should, I feel like you should have some sort of conversation with your inner self about what you want to create this year, right? Although this is just a Gregorian year, it's not the zodiac new year, right? That would be, well, I guess that would be spring wherever you are, but you can start the new year anytime you want, right? I was just telling Gemini. But the point is that write down what your, maybe some of you should look through old notebooks for ideas. Maybe you want to, you put something on the back burner you forgot about in the back of the cupboard, right? Or maybe you have a lot of things on your list and you figure out, okay, well, what is it that I'd really like to achieve this year, right? What is it? And it's not like I'm going to start a new health regime and da 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 da. You know, some of you sure, but most people don't stick with it because it's a weird time of year to start, because again, it's not technically the new year. We're not at the 0 point yet. We're actually coming towards the last quarter, or the last third of it, right? So, I also see you just doodling in a notebook, right? Drawing, not trying to have like a purpose behind it, like, oh, I'm doing this to do that because this is the goal and da da da. That's important too, sure, to get where it is that you're trying to head. But there's also something where it's supposed to be fun also, right? Where you're just being, just sort of unconsciously having the pen come to paper, right? You are still a little, you're starting to, again, you're untangling yourself from something. I think it's also from your old self. Um, in that place of peace that you're seeking, that place where you land, right, and you feel confident about wherever it is that you're going to land, you'll find that place. So don't worry about that. Remember that you're strong. Remember that you're smart. Remember that most of you are attractive, right? Interesting people, right? Not just physically, but like mentally very intriguing, right? Most of you, especially starting out with this Aquarius energy, I'd say most of you here are Taurian folks that have you either have air in your chart that's strong, or just you have a kind of imagination about you that connects you to the whole, right? That connects you to everything. And that's a really beautiful place to be, you know, especially since you're the tender of Mother Earth. It's good. It's very good. So, I guess for some of you, you have to make sure also in this present moment, is there anything that you're sort of, it's a good time to be logical, okay? So if there's anything that's still, your head's in the clouds about it, which may actually be hard to register that that's happening when it's happening, but if you're aware of it, this is where you need to come back down and it be logical, right? You could be like, okay, my pie in the sky idea is this, right? You can write that down on your piece of paper, but then you figure out, okay, what are all the things, and you know, what's, if these were 1 through 10 of importance, if you numbered them, what would they be, right? And then that can kind of you can work that out in sections. There's something very organized about this situation. What are you a little intimidated by? It's interesting. You have a lot of air here, but you're also intimidated by air. I guess some of you were just waiting on a decision. Again, I see the word finalized. Something about that makes a difference. To when that will be, I can't really say, but we do have the Fool following, so perhaps this is closer to spring, to the equinox, Ostara, right? I see it's important for you this year to pay attention to months that end in Y. That is helpful for you. All those months will teach you great lessons, Taurus. Be aware of those. Very much write them down. Okay? I think most of you should be diligent in keeping a journal or a book, but not a book that is... It could be where you write down, sure, your goals and your technical things, but obviously if it's like business oriented or that kind of world, because again, it's supposed to be sort of fun. It's almost as if I keep seeing this notebook that's like just plain, doesn't mean lines in or anything, and you just keep it out in a space where you can pick it up, and there's always a pen attached to it, right? You don't have to go look for anything. It's all right there, and then you just pick it up and you doodle, or you write a poem, or you write what the date is and what time it is and what's the weather. Like you could do anything. There's no rules in this. That's the cool thing. It's like you have this really open opportunity to create in a really childlike way, but it's still structured because it's like in a book, and it has its function, but it could even be where you maybe write down in there things that you need to do too, but it's just a part of it. And then at the end of the year, and at very least 6 months from now, I see if you look at that'll help you understand, like, okay, what was I going through, or what was I trying to do? I do see little lists in there being important, and then like, when did you get it done, or how did you get it done, or did it get done, right? You're just kind of figuring out more about you and how you work overall. Especially there's a strong connection between the mind and the emotions. That's really helpful here. Because I think you can see quite clearly, but there's still something in ways of the moon. There needs to be a full moon, right? Something needs to, that would be the finalization, the eclipse, the what have you. There is an eclipse actually this month, isn't there? I didn't want to get too much into the astrology because there's so many people already doing such great work on that. Well, it's more of a Patreon thing anyway, but the point is that there's a time and a place for things, right? And I see it's very important for you, Taurus, to take some time to think about and to write down how it is that you want to feel this year, okay? What kind of feelings you'd like to be able to hold in your hands, hold in your body. What are your goals? You know what I mean? There's something really strong about that. What are your goals, this year, this month, 6 months, this year, whatever. What are the goals? Let me see here. I like how practical this is. It's Capricorn season. I love it. It's just about 15 minutes too. I see it's also important for you to take, if you are trying to get things in order, or you're trying to figure out like what to do next, I see that it's important for you to just close your eyes and turn off the electronics and listen. It's sort of like the first form of meditation, right? You just sort of let your thoughts come to you. You don't push them away. You don't force them to be something else or whatever. You just let them come to you. And if you do this, it'll set your mind at ease so that so that's clear enough that you can work more into this. You can find this other layer. It goes from like air to water. Okay? Maybe that's also something you write in your notebook. Is it's interesting because we started elementally also is maybe you write down air or like wind. What do you, and then write down words that you associate with that, right? I guess it could be air, people, but it's just the word in general. And like, what do you associate with that? Or what are some memories attached to that? And then with water, right? Like, what are your feelings around water? How do you connect to water? How do you feel about it again? And then any memories, of course, again, fire and earth, right? Figure out, and then I suppose you could always add in ether or spirit if you please, right? How do you feel about that world? The invisible world, I guess. Although wind's invisible too, right? But yeah, that'll help you, especially when it comes to, because some of you are still wrapped up about fire. Fire's still finding its place in you, in your world. There's still something you're settling your heart and your, but mostly it's like the heart and the head's conversation, but that's also being very much worked through. And you see this blacksmith here. This was actually this, not exactly this card, but this is what I was imagining before was a blacksmith. That's with the tools, right? They didn't know at this point, I guess, that there were molecules, or so we're told, right? Whatever these definitions of things. But that doesn't mean that it didn't exist. And that doesn't mean that they were doing, this was wrong because it was before we figured out something else, right? So be aware of that. I also see, what does the rose mean to you? What does the color red? We talked about this too, but I think the color red, which goes back to fire also. How do you feel about fire? What do you associate with fire? Maybe some of you even want to draw or paint or something with fire. Have you ever made art with fire? Interesting, Taurus. Whatever it was is not what it will be. I forget that Lou Reed. What's that Lou Reed lyric? Or the Velvet Underground. Shit, I wish I could remember it. It's so epic. Hold on. It basically talks about whatever comes next is always better than what came before. And it's true, the people we date, the jobs that we have, the places that we live, it usually always becomes better and better and better, right? And I guess this really, that perspective all depends. It's important for you to know that will do that. It's important for you to know that whatever's a little precarious in ways of where you're at or how to get to the next step in a really solid way, well then remember that you're a shapeshifter, right? And also remember that if that's the case and it's too wobbly somewhere, then something needs to be put away, something needs to be put aside, right? Something needs to be buried. Scorpio's your opposite, right? Maybe some of you even literally, I don't know, dig a hole and put some things in it, literally, Maybe you make a sacred box to give back to the earth that you don't need anymore. Some sort of practice in detachment. Okay. We ended up here with the King of Coins, which is you, and the Strength card, which is Leo, which is interesting that the King of Coins here is the Lion. So what did I say? We went from Aquarius to Gemini to Cancer, and then Leo, the Sun. So what is that too? That's Saturn to Mercury to the Moon to the Sun. Since the Moon and the Sun are together too, I should have made I'll make a video about that. The eclipses this year, because of course those will bring great changes, you know, and but the cool thing is if you're willing to put in the work and you know why you're doing something, then there's never a need for scarcity, right? Or to think that it's important for you to know. I heard that it can grow, It's very important. Don't lie to yourself that something can't. Also, if there is something, I went back to that. I heard that pie in the sky. If the goal is a little, it's not like it. If it's not existing now, it doesn't mean that it can't. With certain things, right? But it may not be the time. So whatever it is time for, and whatever is already happening, right? It's in the wheel works. Then keep it going. I do see fire again. It's important for you to think about that. How do you feel about that? What does that connect to? Especially in your memory. And to remember that everyone has a different association, elementally speaking, right? Everyone has a different association of that, and I see it's good to be positive about that. Aquarius, right? They represent difference, but it's very important to keep it in the perspective that difference is good, right? Because Aquarius can also be where it's sort of like cliquey, you know, and they can kind of only hang out with different kinds of people, but it's just important to keep it open-minded, right? Many different kinds of things go together very well, actually, and there's a reason there's all of them. Right? There's a reason. Let's see these last two. Hold on. Oh, there's three. Wow. Temperance, Two of Pentacles, Two of Cups. Look how pretty these cards are. Quit being so serious. Quit being so serious, please. Love where you live. Love those who love you. Right? I do see for any of you, because there were a lot of cards about it, like, whatever the relationship is that you're growing, the relationships that you're growing, I see them being really positive, you know? And even the ones that don't grow anymore, it's still a really positive thing, you know? Or maybe they're not doing exactly what they used to do, or things are different. But that's Uranus and Taurus, and that's really, really, really cool, you know? Plus Rahu and Ketu and all the things that's doing. Oh, I want to mention also, lastly, well, not lastly, but lastly of this reading, with fire, the fire thing, it could be people also that you want to connect to. So Aries, Sagittarius, Leo. I also see Pisces and Scorpio. Okay? Those are important. Put the puzzle pieces together as you please. No need to cry over spilled milk, especially if you already cleaned it up. Okay? You got other places to be. You got other things to do. Okay. What is it that you want to do this year, Taurus? All right. Yeah. What is it that you'd like to do, Taurus? Well, thank you for being here. Anyone who's still here. Interesting reading. It was definitely a little more airy than usual, but maybe you need a bit more of that. Push it, push it around a bit. But anyway, yeah, just thank you for being here. Thank you for such an amazing 2019. It was really, I know it was a lot, and there was a lot that happened, and I just thank you for your commitment, and for your dedication, and for your steadfastness, and for your kind giving self, and well, of course, for all your love and support. This is actually the 3-year anniversary of Opal Oracle too, which is pretty cool. I love threes. Threes are really cool numbers. Things work in threes, right? But anyway, that of course wouldn't be here without you, doing this anyway. And speaking of that, I also, any of you who don't know, I made a Patreon page. There's a link in the description box. Any of you who have already jumped over there, thank you. I hope you got your Christmas cards, your holiday cards. Yeah, at this point, it's still, I've already told everybody, but it's still a art space, it's kind of like, well, we'll do this and we'll do that. At this point, I'm making monthly astrological videos, and then there's early access to over here. I just like to keep it streamlined over here. I'm just that kind of person. I got Venus and Virgo. I got to keep it in its places, But yeah, feel free to check it out. I made a solstice to equinox reading too for everybody, so it's pretty fun over there. But check it out if you please. And thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. That's the truth of the matter. Maybe some of you like pottery too. It's really fun. It's soothing, and it's the soil, right? It's clay. Maybe a lot of Taurians did used to be potters back in the day. It reminds me of Rumi. What is that poem about? Firing the pot. Like you have to start the pot on fire, right? To make it solid. So I guess you'll get to that fire. That goes back to that fire. Interesting. All right, Taurus. I love you so much. Happy New Year. Happy Capricorn season. Don't worry about any of you who are really into astrology too. I just want to mention, I know everyone in the Mama's talking about certain things. Don't worry about it. Especially that Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. I have that in my chart. It's whatever. It happens. It's not a big deal. As long as you're having, if you know that you're cool with where you're at, then it's, how many times have we been here? Love you. Peace.